So Oppo recently launched 3 fresh new Find X3 smartphones. You've got the Find X3 Lite, the Neo and the Pro, and the Find X3 Neo is kind of the fill-in of the Find X3 sandwich, squished neatly in between that Lite and Pro model. So thankfully the Neo isn't as crazy mega expensive as that Pro model. It'll cost you 699 quid here in the UK, so it's about the same as those affordable flagships, the likes of the Galaxy S21 and the OnePlus series. And even though it shaves a few hundred quid off the price of that Pro, the Find X3 Neo still packs some beefy hardware, including some very sexy camera tech, all of that good stuff. So let's give it a full unbox and take you on a tour of all of the specs, the hardware, the software, and for more of the latest greatest tech, please do subscribe and ding that notifications bell. Cheers! So first up, what is in that box besides, of course, naturally the Oppo Find X3 Neo itself? Well, you got your basic bog standard condom case to keep your Find X3 Neo looking pristine. A highly sexual bit of Type-C USB action. One of Oppo's meaty SuperVooc chargers, which is probably big enough to brain an elephant. You even get some earphones bundled in the box as well, which is becoming increasingly rare. And yeah, they are just your standard sort of ear scrapers, so nothing particularly exciting, but always good to have as a spare pair. And the fact that they are Type-C earphones means that yes, you're going to get bugger all headphone jack action on the Find X3 Neo. So that's the highly thrilling contents of the box dealt with, and now let's check out the Oppo Find X3 Neo, and wow, check out the dazzle on that arse. So what you have here is a good bit of Gorilla Glass 5 on the front and on the back end as well, with a lovely matte finish there. It is a textured surface, so it just adds a little bit of extra grip, makes the Oppo Find X3 Neo not quite as slippery, thankfully, and also means that you don't get any of those horrible greasy prints and stuff when you've been, you know, fingering some food and then you pick up your phone to check your messages. You've got a choice of 2 different designs with the Oppo Find X3 Neo if you pick it up here in the UK. This is the Galactic Silver, very dramatic, otherwise you can also pick it up in Starlight Black. Well, shouldn't Starlight be white, technically? No, whatever. And this Galactic Silver model is definitely a bit of a Bobby Dazzler. It's one of those smartphone designs that throws off all kinds of different rainbow shades as it catches the light. One moment it looks fairly plain, the next it's a kind of a blush purple or pink colour. I can definitely see it being a love or hate thing. I personally quite enjoy it because I'm a fan of any kind of bright and vibrant design on smartphones after reviewing years and years of just endless black and white models. As I mentioned before, it is Gorilla Glass 5 on the back and the front with an aluminium band and separating them. It is a shame that it's not Gorilla Glass 6 or even the latest Gorilla Glass Victus, which you get on the Xiaomi Mi 11, but it should still hopefully prove nice and protective. You do have a pre-installed screen protector on the Find X3 Neo as well, and of course that bundled condom case. However, there was unfortunately no mention of IP ratings in the Oppo Find X3 Neo specs guide, so it looks like you might have to not take it into a nice hot bubbly bath to enjoy a bit of anime or whatever you get up to on your Saturday nights. 184 grams though, it's fairly light, certainly as far as the more premium smartphones go. It looks like we've got some gas in the tank, so I'm going to get the Find X3 Neo all set up and take you on a full tour of the rest of the hardware and the software. While that's setting up, we'll just quickly check out the SIM tray as well, and Christ, be careful you actually poke your pin into the correct orifice, as it were, because it looks like the microphone is right next to that SIM tray. It could be easily confused. It looks like the Find X3 Neo has your typical reversible dual SIM tray, so you can fit 2 SIM cards in there at once, but there's no support for micro SD memory cards. So the Oppo Find X3 Neo, So the Oppo Find X3 Neo all set up and ready for action, and it is the latest Android 11 as you would expect from a 2021 smartphone, especially one costing this bloody much. And that does have a lovely little spot of ColorOS 11.1 slathered on top, and it feels like I've spent a lot of time with ColorOS recently, probably because I have, because this is the 3rd Oppo Find X3 phone that I've unboxed. Now, ColorOS is kind of like it or lump it as far as Android launches go. Thankfully, it does have a fairly stock Android vibe these days. You've got like the App Store, oh, go away, Google Discover feed, and of course, usual notification shenanigans with lots of toggles in there to play around with. But once you dive into the settings menu, of course, that's where it very much takes on a life of its own, because it's a bit of a clusterfuck, to be perfectly frank. I mean, like any launcher, once you sort of know your way around it, it's not so bad, but there is a lot of stuff crammed in here. Thankfully, I do quite like the personalization section, which allows you to quickly and easily set up stuff like adding a theme, a wallpaper. You can mess around with the icon styles, change up the grid sizes, all that good stuff, play around with the fonts, and you've also got the always on display option because this has got an OLED panel. And there are lots of different always on display options in here, including some pretty trippy stuff. Remember, kiddies, take your passion to the extreme. unless your passion is hentai, in which case maybe not so much, that could scar you for life. And you'll find another one of my ColorOS favourite features in here as well, a sexy bit of edge lighting. Oh, what do you reckon, a bit of ocean blue or a bit of amber orange? Both very tasty. I'm going to go ocean blue. You've also got support for all kind of gestures and shortcuts, some of which are really good, like the three-finger swipe to take a screenshot. That's what I meant to say. And thankfully, because the Oppo Find X3 Neo is a 6.55-inch Goliath, you do have some one-handed help. So for instance, you can drag down that notifications bar from anywhere on the screen, and you can also drag down all of those icons to the right down here at the bottom, nice and easy to open. For your security needs, it is an in-display fingerprint sensor on the Oppo Find X3 Neo, and they'll get the little marker popping up on that always on display handily, and just quick tap here, thumb or finger to that scanner, and as you can see, straight in, nice and nippy. And you've also got some face unlock support to back that up as well. Oh, that was quick. And this supports a good bit of raise to wake, so hopefully just basically pick up your handset out your phone pocket or whatever, and bang, bugger all waiting straight in. As for the storage, where you get 256 gigs of internal space here on the Oppo Find X3 Neo, so download as much random crap as you want, go nuts. Although of course there is no microSD memory card support, so maybe don't go too nuts. Now, absolutely one of the best bits of the Oppo Find X3 Neo is that 6.55-inch Super AMOLED display. Those colors on that default vivid mode are so poppy and punchy, they will smack you right in the chops. You've got a full HD plus resolution, 2400 by 1080 pixels, and that keeps things surprisingly crisp considering the size of this panel. Nice, sharp, deep contrast as well. You've got full HDR10 plus support on this bad boy, but it's not all good news. You may have noticed this big fat gap right here in the middle of my app icons. That's where Disney Plus would usually sit. Unfortunately, Disney Plus is not at the moment supported by the Oppo Find X3 Neo. Hopefully that will be corrected very shortly. And even though I've got a Netflix icon on there, as you can see, I'm out of luck on that one too. Tried sideloading it and everything, no joy whatsoever. So yeah, stuff like Crunchyroll and Amazon Prime Video and YouTube and everything seem to work fine, but Netflix and Disney Plus obviously pretty popular streaming services, so as I say, hopefully that support will come soon. Tell you what though, get this bad boy out in the sun and you won't have any trouble seeing what's going on. It tops off at a mega 1100 nits at very peak brightness. And as you can see there, the display does curve ever so slightly around the edges of the Find X3 Neo. I have had a couple of instances where my palms have just slightly intruded on the display, and that's kind of balked up the responsiveness, which is slightly annoying. And if you bounce on into the display settings, you can not only play around with the color reproduction to a small degree at least, but you can also change up the display refresh rate as well. It's set to 90 Hz by default. You can bump that down to 60 Hz if you want to save battery life. And let's not forget the audio, of course. It's a stereo speaker setup here on the Oppo Find X3 Neo, but is it actually any good? Let's boost up the volume and see. But definitely one of the highlights on the software front here is that Samsung is guaranteeing you a minimum of 4 years of security updates with the Galaxy. Okay, so like some other stereo speaker setups, that top speaker there is noticeably more tinny than the bottom speaker. So if you cover that up, you will notice it's quite grainy, gritty, distorted sound. But not too bad, at least on that top volume, you've got a reasonable bit of punch to it, so you should be able to enjoy a bit of YouTube, for instance, one of my fine unboxing videos in a fairly noisy place. And as usual, dive into that sound settings menu, and you've got a good bit of Dolby Atmos support, so I can fine-tune your audio to suit whatever you're up to. And as I mentioned before, sadly no headphone jack at all. It is Type-C dongles or Bluetooth all the way. So powering the Oppo Find X3 Neo, you have a Snapdragon 865 chipset backed by a rather healthy 12 gigs of RAM, and of course the 865 powered most of the flagships from 2020, so unsurprisingly absolutely blazes through the benchmarking test. And yeah, unsurprisingly, if you're a gaming fan, well, the Oppo Find X3 Neo will do absolutely any title out there, no worries, on those top detail settings with a silky smooth frame rate, including the likes of PubG and Call of Duty Mobile. If you're an online gamer, the likes of Genshin Impact as well, if you're into something a bit more beefy. Oh, and I'd once again just like to take this opportunity to point out that if you are a sniping dickhead in Call of Duty Mobile, then this is what you've got coming to you, you massive wang. And courtesy of ColorOS's very comprehensive game space feature, you've got all kinds of great gaming tools on here, including the ability to change the sensitivity of that 180Hz touch sampling display. You've got plenty of performance boosters, you've got that excellent game focus mode, all the good stuff. You've also got full 5G support here in the Oppo Find X3 Neo as well. 12 bands supported, so pretty much worldwide coverage, not too far off. As for the battery tech, well, it's a 4,500 mAh cell crammed inside of the Find X3 Neo, and that supports Oppo's magnificently titled SuperVooc 2.0 65-watt wired charging, so you'll get a full charge in well under an hour. Sadly, however, no wireless charging support here on the Oppo Find X3 Neo, which is a shame because that's a fairly common feature at this sort of price point. Now, of course, one of the best things about the Oppo Find X3 Pro was that excellent rear camera tech, and while the Oppo Find X3 Neo can't quite match it lens for lens, you do get a lot of the same fantastic optics packed in there. Now, the main thing is that the Find X3 Neo boasts the same excellent 50 megapixel Sony IMX766 primary sensor with built-in optical image stabilization. And as you can see there, even indoors it captures very natural looking colors and no softness or graininess to speak of. One area where Oppo has scaled things back a bit from that Pro model for the Neo is with the ultra wide angle lens. You no longer get another 50 megapixel Sony IMX766 sensor, it's just a basic 16 megapixel ultra wide angle shooter, but hopefully you should still get some natural looking results without much in the way of edge distortion. And the good news is, if you do want to get in closer to your subject, well, you've got a 13 megapixel telephoto lens with a 5x hybrid zoom. So that should be really good if you want to take just some natural looking shots of your kids or your pets or whatever having a good old time. And you do have one more lens here on the Oppo Find X3 Neo, and that is of course the obligatory macro shooter. So you can get right up in someone's grill with that on the go. And plenty of other bonus camera features, including all the standard stuff like a good bit of portrait mode, you can play around with the bokeh level, you can of course add filters. The good old neon portrait. You've got a night mode for when things get a little bit dim, and if you dive on all the way over to the more section, well, just lots of extra bits there, including the extra HD if you want to shoot snaps at that maximum resolution. And you've also got proper Pro mode controls as well. And this gives you full manual controls that you can play around with to warm up your shot, cool it down, change the shutter speed, get manual focus on the go. And if you want to shoot some video, it starts off at 1080p 30 frames per second by default, but you can bump that up to 60 FPS if you like. Otherwise, you can jump all the way to 4K again at either 30 or 60 FPS. So overall, very strong optics, certainly to rival the likes of the Samsung Galaxy S20 Fan Edition and the Xiaomi Mi 11. And then of course we whip around to that 32 megapixel selfie camera, should again prove absolutely fine for your everyday shooting Instagram needs. You got portrait mode, smart, so you can once again jump on board with the night mode. Or if you're me, you can just forget it even exists and never take a selfie ever again. And that right there, in a nutshell, is the Oppo Find X3 Neo. Certainly a viable alternative to that Pro if you can't quite stretch up to the over £1,000 asking price of that bad boy. And you know, you still got that strong performance, that excellent 50 megapixel primary camera sensor, very similar software smarts and all that good stuff as well. But you're also missing a few things, like at the moment Netflix and Disney Plus support, no wireless charging in there as well, which is a bit of a shame. Now I'm hoping to get a full in-depth Oppo Find X3 Neo review on the go sooner rather than later, though I'm absolutely drowning in smartphones at the moment, so many new releases. But it'd be great to hear your thoughts down in the comments below in the meantime, and please do poke, subscribe and ding that notifications bell for more on the latest and greatest tech. Cheers everyone, love you!